Origination. We are live on X, Facebook, and YouTube, and you are welcome to join the chat on the chat lines. Today being Good Friday, it's almost an apt name for a terrible day in human history and today in American history, also known as Black Friday, Holy Friday, Great and Holy Friday, or Friday of the Passion of the Lord, is a solemn Christian holy day commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus and his death at Calvary. That is what Good Friday is. Why they call it Good Friday, I don't really know. But it is Good Friday. The Christian people remember the day, very solemn, commemorating the crucifixion of their Lord and Master Jesus and his crucifixion and his death. And today in America, we are watching the death of democracy, but not from Donald Trump. We're watching the death of civility, but not from Donald Trump. We're watching the death of truth, but not from Donald Trump. We're watching the death of decency on all levels, but not from Donald Trump. Instead, we witness a black teen stabs a white boy in the heart, unarmed white boy. They have an argument. He pulls out a knife, the black kid, and stabs the white guy in the heart and kills him with one thrust. Now he's being held up on a platform as he's a victim now. He's not just innocent, but he's the victim, even though he's living and he had the weapon, and the white kid is dead and had no weapon. The black is now the victim, according to the new generation of race hustlers. So I tweeted this morning, this one is bothering me, this story. Black hate is being fomented by the family and lawyers for the black teen who stabbed to death an unarmed white teen. This fundraising for the black murderer, after many years of Biden and the leftist media myths of white privilege, white supremacy, and black victimhood, will lead to more violence by blacks unless this is stopped by the vermin in the media. Did we not have enough of the BLM gangsters? The decades of race hustling by Al Sharpton and Jesse I. Jackson, the Tawana Brawley lie, the George Floyd riots, didn't we have enough of that? And yet, if you look at the comments on the people who are giving money to this murderer's defense fund, it's sickening to see what hatred there is amongst so many blacks today. I don't even want to read it. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. This is very bad. But you don't have to read this to feel it. All you got to do is open your eyes and look around and you can feel it. The hatred coming from the majority of the younger black community is something to behold. They have been instilled and inculcated with racial hatred unlike any I have ever seen in my lifetime. The older black people don't see it that way. They lived here long enough to understand what's going on. In fact, I received a comment from one gentleman. I never know these people. Either it was on my Twitter feed, Facebook, or it could have been Instagram. I don't know where. Edward Farmer says, but not all black Americans are agreeing to any of this. And me being one of them, we're sick and tired of our ethnicity. We're not agreeing to any, and me being one of them, we're sick and tired of our ethnicity being dragged down by this racial paranoia from what used to be the left. It's sickening to see a POS being defended by people who IMO need mental help right now. Yeah, I'll say it. Be a black person right now, he writes. It truly feels like most of my ethnicity has devolved as human beings in America. And I believe this is being used by the so-called media to gaslight more riots and violence. Okay, that's what we're seeing right now. He stabbed someone to death with a knife. The other boy was unarmed. And I want you to think about something. Think about the police in America and their rules of engagement, how they have to bend over backwards and do triple somersaults backwards before they can engage any level of force against anyone who assaults them. It's the worst job in America being a policeman today. The worst. Now add to it the racial component, where those of a certain race feel that they're entitled to attack or kill white people. And what you have is a cocktail that is worse than any invented by Molotov, being fomented by the left. This doesn't end well, because when this teen is found guilty, I don't know how he's going to find a jury of his peers. How can this guy find a jury of his peers? Who are we going to hire? Blacks who stab people to death, unarmed people to death? That would be his jury of peers. Go to every neighborhood in the cities in America and find a jury of his peers. That would be blacks who stabbed whites to death who were unarmed, or shot someone who was unarmed. That would be a jury of his peers. That's what you want for a jury. So where are they going to find a jury for this trial? This kid did it. He had a knife. The other kid didn't. End the story. Then the father of the dead boy, could you imagine if that was your son? Twins, beautiful kids. You worked since they're babies, come out of your wife. You kill yourself to raise them. They go to a game, guy's sitting in the wrong seat. They go up and say, you're sitting in the wrong seat. The next thing you know, the black pulls out a knife and stabs him in the heart. Now he's screaming he's the victim. And here they come with the suit, the tie, the whole civil rights bullshit all over again. The only one missing from the parade who doesn't have his hand out is Al Sharptongue. Where the hell is he? Guess he landed on Easy Street so long ago he doesn't have to riot anymore. Doesn't he have a gig on MSNBC? I'm sure he does. Welcome to Good Friday. A little wrap-up of the news here for you. What else is in the news? I don't know. What else is in the news? Black hate being fomented by new race hustlers. That says it all. Look, someone's got to say it. There's a lot more in the news that I could be talking about, and I will on this Friday. I tweeted today a couple of different things. Dems next to equate MS-13 gangbanger in El Salvador prison with Anne Frank. Oh, yeah, you'll hear that from Charles Schumer tomorrow. The MS-13 gangbanger who was deported, very wisely taken off our streets and sent to a max prison in El Salvador, will next be held up with the hold-up signs of Anne Frank. That's what I can expect from Schumer next. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Savage said it in 2005. Now, of course, Occasional Cortex will be in on this one soon. And the reason I named her Occasional Cortex is because everything she does is through a looking glass, backwards. Of course, she's a dangerous one because she has a certain degree of sexual attractiveness to stupid people. She looks like a degenerate slut to me. And, of course, is very appealing in the age of Kardashian without regard to any race whatsoever. Sluts rule in America today. So she's got twisted eyes, Occasional Cortex, a twisted life story, Occasional Cortex, and she's been brainwashed by the seltzer man, Bernie Sanders. Brainwashed with this crap called democratic socialism. Even Lenin wrote there's no such, it was Marx rather, who wrote there's no such thing as democratic socialism. He said, we call it that in the beginning. Read Marx. And he said, once we gain the power, we go to full communism and we enforce it with our military arm. So Bernie Sanders is the most dangerous bastard in American political history. A purely evil son of a bitch who, if I could, I would personally deport him from the country. I'd throw him out of here and Israel wouldn't take him. He's the kind of scum Israel wouldn't even take. You'd send Bernie Sanders to Ukraine and give him a green T-shirt to go fight with his friend Zelensky. So he brainwashed millions of young girls and boys, that Bernie Sanders, with Marxist, Leninist, Maoist philosophy. And they're brainwashed, so sick. They're so sick. They're mentally so deranged. And he's liable to run for the presidency. She'll run for the vice presidency or vice versa. You'll say they can't win. It can't happen here. When you have so many people in this country who are mentally deranged, drugged out of their minds, that they would take the side of an MS-13 gangbanger and glorify him and put him up on a pedestal, anything might happen in this country. If the economy goes to hell, God forbid, and doesn't recover, all bets are off. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So we have a lot of other stories that I tweeted that today and yesterday. Here's another one. End free medical care for illegals. They have decimated our hospitals and bankrupted many states. No more gold-plated medical care for illegals. They're destroying our hospitals. I've been saying it for 30 years. Have you been in an emergency room recently? Unfortunately, I have. It's filled with illegal aliens. If they get a friggin' runny nose, they bring their brat in and they sit there with the whole extended family, and the doctors come and kiss their asses. Go in there and see what it costs you for a runny nose from El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Mexico. Go and take a look at what they're doing to this country. And of course, the doctors are caught. They have to give them the same care as they would give a millionaire donor to the hospital. Trust me, I know that very well. So I haven't given 10 cents to my local hospital, even though some of the doctors are great. I said, I'm not giving you 10 cents to this hospital. 10 cents. Why should I sit online in an ER room when illegal aliens who haven't paid a nickel into this system go right to the head of the class? Tell me why. I said, don't you have a special express line for donors? Oh, no, that's illegal. Oh, it's illegal? Then I won't give you 10 cents. I'll wait online with the illegal aliens. That's all. Are you joking? You know, if you look at hospitals in America, it's a long story. I don't want to bore you with it on a Good Friday. You look in New York City, for example, you have the Presbyterian Hospital, the Jewish Hospital. There's all sorts of different hospitals for different religions because they built their own hospitals out of their own funding. Because that way they had doctors who understood them, nurses who understood them, foods that they understood. So you had a Jewish hospital, you had a Presbyterian hospital, things like that. And people went to their own hospitals where they would feel more comfortable. You can't have that today. Today, it's one gigantic, it used to be called a melting pot. It's now a chamber pot. I said that years ago. America has gone from being a melting pot to becoming a chamber pot. It's just what it is. It's a third world hellhole in these hospitals today. Go and see. God forbid you have to go into an ER room. Take a look at what's in there. Go and look what's in there and what they're abusing our system. And now you add to this something, again, very controversial. They all have special needs children. This is a very sensitive topic for me because I had a brother who truly was a special needs person. There was no such treatment for him in those days. There will be no such treatment for poor Jerome to these days. But the racket today is special needs. All you got to do is say special needs. Then the moronic child that you have gets special treatment in the schools, tests in advance that they can read in their own privacy, their own room, special tutors, all sorts of welfare bennies, all sorts of things. Special needs. They all got the racket down, all because of the lawyers. The vermin lawyers, it's all the lawyers. Trace it all to the lawyers. If you look at the turmoil in America, you could trace it all to the lawyers because we don't have tort reform. What we need in this country is tort reform, faster than we need tort reform. The torts are less trouble for us in America today than the torts. The torts are not tortellini, my friend. They are vermin. They are crap. They are gangsters with suits and ties, and they have laptops instead of machine guns. They've done more damage to this nation. Those lawyers have done more damage to this nation. Those tort lawyers have done more damage than MS-13 could ever hope to do. They have decimated this nation. It's the lawyers, my friend. We need tort reform, not tort reform. Some other things that I'm getting off my chest today. You know, the FSU shooter was ID'd as a son of deputy sheriff. I got that yesterday before Reuters. I looked at the kid. There was something off in his face. I saw it. There was just something off, just as I guessed. And I had to tweet it this morning. Another drugged up psycho teen shooter was on doctor-approved meds. The affidavit said, quote, Phoenix Ickner was, quote now, I'm quoting now, on medication for several health and mental issues to include a growth hormone disorder and ADHD. So he was drugged out of his gourd, number one. Number two, he looks like he had some genetic problems also, which I won't go into details. A very sensitive problem. You're not allowed to observe with your own eyes. And he gets access to his obese mother's gun. Oh, yeah. Take a look at the mother, the cop that they made into a cop, the mother. It looks like she couldn't run, I would say, 1 block, let alone 1 mile. But she was on the police force, so she had a gun. And Phoenix was on medication for health and mental issues, including a growth hormone disorder and ADHD. Case closed. Doctors did it. The doctors, the devils who were drugging our children. I wrote about this for so many years. I'm not apologizing for it. Let me get a book for you if you don't mind. I'll get a book out for you because I remember how much this meant to me at the time. Back in the early 80s, I wrote a book. It was called Healing Children Naturally. And I dedicated this book as follows. It's very important for you to hear this. The first line: just as the undrawn sword is the mark of the best swordsman, so too is the best physician one who relies least on synthetic drugs to heal. And I go into the whole story here. And then I lead right into the children. Right into the children, page 1. RFK Jr. hasn't seen this yet. I hope he does one day, because I'm the godfather of this field. And I'm not looking for any work or any appointments. I'm not looking for a government appointment or any work. But the knowledge that I have laid out in this book and others is important for this nation and the world. One of the most suppressed statistics is that more children under the age of 15 die of cancer, including leukemia, than of any other cause aside from accidents. This alarming fact is reason for worry, but not despair, because there is now a trend away from a magic bullet approach to cancer toward the preventive concept of altering environmental factors associated with certain cancers. I should have won a Nobel Prize just for that paragraph. I'm not holding my breath. But then I go to the fact that pediatricians often uninformed about nutrition. They're drugs first, not food first. And then I go into the whole story of ADD, ADHD, the drugging of our children at that time with Ritalin. There's a whole chapter in here on that one. And I was 40 years ahead of my time. Am I looking for a gold star? Am I looking for a halo? I don't know what I'm looking for. It doesn't really matter anymore. I'm way past looking for an award. I'm not looking for an award. I have to, I don't want to get too personal, but at the end of the day, do you really think that you're going to be judged by God? He's going to bring you in and say, all right, bring him forward. All right, what did you do on earth? Well, I wrote 30 books. What else did you do? Tell me what you didn't do. We know what you did. We have it all down here. We know about all of the white stuff between the black lettering. What do you want to say about that? See, that's the whole thing, is we think that we're going to tell God what we did that was good, but God sees the white stuff in between the letters that we don't tell him about. He sees it all: the good, the bad, the ugly, the grand, the noble, the not so noble, because none of us are really noble. We're just flawed, what shall I say, flawed naked apes is what we are. We have risen above the apes in some regard and fallen way below them in others. I mean, the standards of behavior in the ape world are probably higher than that amongst the humans that I have seen. I don't know that apes commit mass murder. I haven't seen that yet. I know that apes torture each other. I know they can kill each other. Like two guy apes can kill each other over, like you get some big silverbacks and they want the good-looking ape woman. Okay, they can tear each other up pretty bad, but they don't kill the other guy, unlike Westerners or humans, let's put it that way. The viciousness in the human species is unmatched in the animal kingdom that I know of. I don't know of any animals that torture. Oh, yes, they might kill another animal, but I don't know that they will torture another animal for pleasure. It probably does exist. It probably does exist somewhere. But here we are. So we're living in a time, the best of times. It was the worst of times. We go to Dickens now. What else did I tweet today? New podcast. Newsmax takes off with the CEO, Christopher Ruddy. It's a very unexpected conversation I had with Mr. Ruddy yesterday. It's my podcast. It's free. We go into who he thinks might win the next presidency. He's very close with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They're all there together at the Mar-a-Lago crowd. So I spoke with Chris. It's a good podcast. Another drugged up psycho teen, black hate being fomented with the family, savage ass giving a Passover at Christmas. Dems to equate MS-13 gangbanger in El Salvador prison with Anne Frank. Why I named her occasional cortex. Let's see what I missed. And free medical care for illegals. FSU shooter ID'd. As son of deputy sheriff, used her gun. And then I renamed Letitia James. I gave her a new name, Lachicha James. I'm very good with changing names. Lachicha James, hung by her own petard. That's an old white male phrase. Hung by her own petard. I don't know if she learned that at Howard University. Lachicha James. I saw, by the way, last week that left-wing fascists are calling dogs parasites. I knew this was coming because I studied the Chinese Maoist history. And in China, communists on the Mao killed dogs. Did you know they killed all their dogs in China? You didn't know that. So now the left wing in America is calling dogs parasites. Next, death camps for your dog from the friendly left. Oh, yeah. If they can kill the unborn and they can kill a society, why shouldn't they kill your pet? And I think that's it today. That's a nice Good Friday show for you. Here I am. I zoomed. I took a picture of myself before I went on Zoom for my Newsmax TV. What I do lately is I get dressed for the Newsmax. I recorded the Newsmax TV show for Rob Schmidt that will be airing later today. I'm going to watch how it looks. I love to watch myself after I judge. I judge that way. The day I detect an iota of Biden in me, you'll never hear from me again. One pause, too many. I may pause here and there, skip here and there, but the day you see me doing a Biden, dropping ice cream in my Keurig, over. The day I lick an ice cream cone and verbally and drop it on my Keurig, over, gone. So it's about at 25 after the next hour, I'll be on Newsmax with the show I just recorded. So since I suit up for the TV show, I then use the dress up for YouTube, X, a little broadcast like this twice a week or whatever. And this Sunday night, I have my own TV show on Newsmax, which is doing very well. It was pulling over 200,000 a week, roughly. But I got preempted last week to 11 o'clock because they had to run a Jesus special, which is great. It's their network, not mine. I'm just a, small player on the weekend, very happy to have it. So they ran my show at 11 o'clock. And unfortunately for you, my show is again bumped to 11 o'clock Eastern this week, even though it's an original show this week. What's it on? It's on Easter and Passover. It's a very good show. The way it comes out on TV is much different than the way it's done on YouTube. You have to understand the way I do these things. I do a multi-dimensional broadcasts. If I do something on YouTube like I'm doing now or on X, I sometimes repurpose them with the excellent production team at Newsmax, and they do become a TV show. So this Sunday's a great show. Unfortunately, won't be on until 11 p.m. Eastern. The following week, we go back to regular programming, and we have a great show lined up. It's in the can. I have it already. My childhood stories, the famous Savage childhood stories, the one you've always wanted to hear. Not all of them. Big Fat Al's tuna with the arm in the tuna, Louie and the monkey throughout the window. I can't wait to see that on TV. I want to see what happens when I change from politics and we take a break from politics and I go back to the shtick that made me famous, which was my ability to you as a human being when I tell you childhood stories, growing up in New York, immigrant son, Lower East Side, Queens, the DeSoto, the halitosis breath from the guy in the car. We thought there was a dead animal under the muffler. People love those stories. I actually want to do more of those. You can't make stories up, though. The fetus in a nun's trunk, great story. It didn't even make that to TV, but that'll be on the week after this Sunday. I can't wait to see it. And I like to end on a positive note. The black hate being fomented is I try not to even let that story get into me. When I see the hatred coming up, being fanned by the greedy race hustlers and by the vermin in the media, it gets me sicker than you can imagine. How much do you think this nation can take of these race hustlers? How much more naked could it get that a black kid stabs another kid in the heart with a knife? The other kid is unarmed. The kid is dead. Instead of shutting his goddamn mouth and going before a jury, he now has to insult the dead child and throw the father of dead child out of the press conference to stir up more racial hatred than this country can take. And then on top of that, you have an MS-13 tattoo job in El Salvador. We got rid of these pieces of shit. Finally, Trump did what he said he would do. He threw the garbage out. And what happens now? The whole Democrat establishment embraces the gangbangers that we all said, please get them the hell out of our neighborhoods before we become like Mexico. You know, we could descend if Trump had not won and that person called Kamala Harris had won, we would be very close to what's going on in Mexico right now. What's that show I've been watching? I rewatched it on Netflix because so much of it is such garbage, I can't even watch it. So I go back to stuff from 2015, 2016, which is, Sicario. Sicario, which it means assassin in the Mexican lingo. So the first Sicario, you know what I'm talking about now? Anyone see it? Raise your hand. Sicario, 2015. It's so well done, it's hard to believe. It leaves you breathless. It's so well done. The actress in it, that skinny actress, Emily Blount, really amazing. Del Toro, astounding with those eyes of his. He plays a lawyer whose wife had been beheaded and his daughter thrown into a vat of acid by the cartels. And now he's on a vengeance working with the U.S. government. Oh, my God, it's so gripping. The writer is a genius. The writer is such a genius. So he did one more of the Sicario. The next one came out in 21 called Sicario, the Day of the Soldado, the Day of the Soldier, which is also great. And I watched that one. Then I watched the first one again, and it's so gripping. You have to say to yourself, how can human beings do this to other human beings? So I learned something from it, which was the word Sicario, which we know means killer or assassin. That's what it means, Sicario, comes from ancient Israel, when ancient Israelites formed secret bands of murderers to kill Roman conquerors. You didn't know that, did you? Look it up, Sicario. It derives from the Hebrew word about them creating their own bands of hit squads in Israel, in ancient Palestine, whatever you want to call it. The Jews did this to the Romans who occupied their country. Sicario. There's not a nation on this earth that is not formed in blood. I want you to know that. You look at like the left keeps quoting the Scandinavian countries like they were not formed in blood. They were formed in blood, you schmuck, you. How do you think that the Nordic warriors formed Sweden, Norway, Denmark, etc.? By conquering other peoples, you idiots, you. That's how they did it, through murder and the sword. There's not a nation on earth not formed through violence and blood. Not one. Not one. Not one. So when you say America should be more like the Norway or Finland, you don't know what you're blowing smoke out of your behind that's coming out of your mouth, for God's sakes. Go teach at Harvard. That's where you belong. They need a little more of the Scandinavian warrior to protect their women and children from the Muslim invaders who they were brought in by lesbians in those countries. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. The psychopathic lesbians destroyed the West. Yes, you heard me right. Not the gay men. The lesbians did it because they hated men so much. Take a look at Angela Merkel. Go look at the history of Germany. They went from Hitler to Angela Merkel. And look at Germany today. Every other day you read of another Muslim refugee or asylum case who runs someone over or stabs someone to death in the street. And if a German dares say one word, the German's thrown in jail by another German. It's the death of the West. Came in a way you never expected. If you read Otto Spengler, which I did a whole podcast on it in my 500 or so episodes. I did one on Otto Spengler's The Decline of the West that was so good. It went over the heads of almost everybody. You know, I'm not Joe Rogan, okay? Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan. You can't argue with success. I get it. But to me, he's not an intellectual giant, okay? He knows nothing about human history, world history, nothing. He has no knowledge. I don't know anything about martial arts. Don't put me in a ring with Joe Rogan, but don't put him in an intellectual ring with me because he couldn't get to the first corner, could not get out of the first corner. He's a meathead. The other day he says retard is a great word. You hear this? But because he's so successful, you can't say anything. Go look at my podcast, 500 episodes. And the one I did on The Decline of the West by Otto Spengler, written in 1908, 1909, just before World War I, he predicted that China or Asia would rise. This was around World War I, and the West would diminish, and that Asia would rise. And I mean, the game isn't over yet. You think the tariffs are going to end it? You're wrong. This is just one pimple on the entire, landscape. But the death of the West is a very interesting concept by Spengler. He was one of the greatest geniuses of all time that I've ever read. And all I can do is invite you to listen to that podcast. Maybe we'll put it up again next week as a bonus. We should do that. I put so much into that. That's a 1,000-page book. It took me months to read it and underline it. So if you look at the European Union, it's the new Soviet Union. The EU is the old Soviet Union run by that van der Leyden, who descends from Nazis, by the way. If you look at the history of Ms. van der Leyden, the warmongering, vicious bitch who runs the EU, she can't wait for a war with Russia. These people are so mentally ill and so whacked out of their gourds that they want a war with Russia. They're so sick. They're demented. But her whole family has a big history in Nazi Germany. Oh, yeah. You didn't see that at Harvard. You didn't learn that either. So they went from Angela Merkel to van der Leyden, who worked for Angela Merkel, from the same bolt of cloth, man-haters through and through, and they destroyed Europe. Europe is now not Europe. I mean, it's nice to watch these shows about the Gothic cathedrals and the medieval art. Who's that guy? Rick Steves' Europe. I love Rick Steves' Europe. A fantasy. What he's telling you is true, but it existed then. It doesn't exist now. Now you could be sitting in a cafe enjoying your croissant and get run over by a Muslim that they brought in, who rented a rent-a-car to run over a crowd in a cafe. Why did they bring them in here? Why did they bring them to Europe? Why would you bring Syrian refugees of military age into Europe? Well, why would you bring obese Europe haters with burqas on that cover their faces that isn't even in the Quran? Do you know that full body covering is not even in the Quran? It's not in there. You want that marching around in the streets? It looks like a prehistoric animal with the whole face covered. Why are they all so fat on top of it all? And why do they hate the West the minute they get there? Why? Why do they hate the West? You know why? Because they know they don't belong there, and they figure if you're stupid enough to take us in and give us a free apartment and free food and free welfare, and you don't give it to your own citizens, I spit on you. That's why. End of story. Any other questions? Because I have the answers. Yes, liberalism not only is a mental disorder, but it's a dangerous mental disorder. And I think I've had enough for the day. That's 33 good minutes that I've given you. Got it out of my system. Now what? It's Friday on the West Coast here. You got the sun. Today is it's a bad historical day. The day, I started the podcast with that. It's Black Friday. It's not Good Friday. The day Jesus was crucified historically to the Christian people. You can't celebrate it. I never understood as a non-Christian. What do you mean black? Why do you call it Good Friday? What's good about it? Sunday's another day. It gets resurrected, comes back. Even if it's mythological religion, it's a better day than this. So you have the feast, the Easter feast on Sunday. I never knew any of this as a kid. Egg rolls, Easter eggs. We dyed eggs. The Easter Bunny. I know what the hell it all was. What do kids know? Kids don't get taught the real McCoy unless you go to a fundamentalist church or a fundamentalist Jewish house of worship. You don't know nothing about your religion. Nothing. To the liberal Christian, Easter's about dyeing an egg and rolling an egg on a lawn. To the Reformed Jew, the holidays are about nothing. Bagels and lox and singing Am Yisrael They don't know anything about their religion, nothing. The sacrifices, the history, the geniuses, what it really means, what it does for you in here, none of that. And here I am, nice Friday, happy Easter. I know how to say happy Easter to Christian friends. It's a somber holiday. It's a very somber holiday. It starts with the Palms last week, Palm Sunday. Then today, Good Friday. I'm actually depressed. Yeah, he was crucified, Jesus, on this day historically. Let's say it's not the exact day. We don't know. Let's say it's roughly that. But collectively, in the collective subconscious of Western civilization, it's the day Jesus was crucified. It's a very sad, heavy day. If you wonder why you're depressed today, and you don't even know why, or you don't feel good. See, I'm trying to put two and two together for you in ways. We have a collective consciousness. We have a collective memory. You look at you try to teach this to children. There's not a child who shouldn't be taught that they're not the firstborn in the family. That human body that they inhabit is the collective inheritance of thousands of generations before them. The ancestors, in other words. Now, of course, the Native American culture, for one, which I've studied to some extent, written some books on it, delved into it. South Pacific art, I've collected it, studied it, lived in some remote islands you never heard of, not where they draw Fiji water out of the ground. I've spent some long nights drinking Yangona with the men 40 years ago. I met people who practice witchcraft in the Fiji Islands who you would never hear about. To them, or in New Guinea, in the highlands of New Guinea, or in the New Hebrides, or in New Ireland, or in countries you never heard of, if you look at the totems on their art, on their figures, they have their ancestors carved into their art. They know they're not here as the firstborn of the whole world. Here we have our heads up our behinds. So then you have the freaks of nature called influencers, girls who are so stupid and vacuous that they actually think that they're something because they have a certain number of followers and they sell lipstick. And then the little girls who grow up and look at them want to be like them, and then the society starts to melt down, so anything goes. So a black murderer who has a knife stabs a white boy in the heart over an argument, the white boy's unarmed, and now they turn the black boy into a victim. Or Trump finally deports one of the gangbangers amongst the millions who should go, and now the left lines up against, he was thrown out of the country illegally. He's like Anne Frank in Nazi Germany. They're mentally ill. We cannot let this country be run by the mentally ill. With their law degrees from Harvard, deport them with their gangbangers. I've said this for years. Take the lawyers from the ACLU who are so in love with the gangbanger who's in El Salvador in a prison and let them go. In fact, deport them, not permanently, because they love this guy so much in that jail. You take all the Marvins from the ACLU and you force them into that prison so that this gangbanger can get the help, the legal help that he needs, in person, in the prison, in El Salvador. So we send all the lawyers from the ACLU to El Salvador so they can help all the gangbangers get their justice, file briefs, file motions, and live in the prison with them. And see if it isn't a better nation within 3 months. You know, sometimes medicine is bitter, but you have to take the bitter medicine to get cured. And we haven't even seen the bitter medicine that we're going to need to cure ourselves of this pestilence, this evil pestilence, this tumor called the American left, particularly the cancer in the ACLU. Not until they are broken up under RICO will I be happy. You want me to tell you what I would do if I was in the Justice Department or an advisor to Pam Bondi, who's a great AG? No, isn't she AG? She's AG, right? Go after the ACLU under a RICO because they meet every qualification for the racketeering and corrupt organization statute. Bust up the ACLU, take all their assets, and let them see you in court. throw them out of this country by getting them out of our courts. They're a tumor on the body politic. ACLU, remember what I said, the head of the snake, my first book. They are the disease. They are the cancer. They are the tumor. They have metastasized in our schools and destroyed every law school in this country with their left-wing psychosis. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or Asian or brown. I will tell you that unless we rein in the psychopathic lawyers, we'll not have a country left. And so this advice goes to the Trump administration. In your attempts to save America before it's too late, bust the ACLU under RICO. I could end it now and say have a nice day and go to a break. I don't have a break to go to, so I'll just say a few other things, and then I'm going to go on with my weekend. So how do I wrap this whole thing up? How do I wrap it up? I say, okay, subscribe, hit the like button, because I'm looking now. I'm getting, let's see, what do I have now on YouTube? I have, I don't know what I have. I have to go on my YouTube. I like YouTube a lot. I'm smiling. I look on YouTube. I have 83,800 people subscribed on YouTube. I want to hit 100,000. It says, Black teen murderer glorified by American left. It's a good conversation. So hit the like button, join, subscribe, however you do it. I should get a subscribe button, join now, subscribe, crash the like button. I'm listening to myself. It's interesting. The media is a crazy world when you go on the air and you look at yourself. All right, my friends, we're living in crazy times. I thought that they would be over, but they're just beginning. And the American left is suddenly now exhibiting a mental illness that I never thought they were capable of. Of all the issues for them to wrap themselves around, could they have chosen a crazier one? Could they have chosen a crazier one than an El Salvador gang member and make him into a martyr, turning him into Anne Frank? I don't know how it could get crazier than this. There's no way they could make it crazier than this. They almost did it with the black kid who stabbed the white kid with the knife. He's next. He'll be now, you'll see coins made of him, Bitcoin. They'll have like memorial coins for him, like he was the one who was stabbed. That's coming next. Look, I can't fix the wrongs of the world. I can't right all the wrongs of the world. Sometimes I get up and I say to myself, Michael, stop it. You can't right the ship by yourself. Look at all the good people in the media now. There's so many great, smart young people on the conservative side or the rational side that have come up, and there are some really good ones. And it's nice to see. As one of the elders of the movement, that's who I am. I'm one of the elders of, I'm not the original one, but I'm one of the elders. I may grow up on others who were great. I love William F. Buckley Jr. I love Pat Buchanan. I loved all of those guys. I love the speeches of, who was the presidential guy, ran for the presidency against Nixon? Extremism in the name of liberty is no vice. Moderation. Who was that? Was that guy from Arizona? The Air Force guy, I loved him. I don't remember his name. I would have voted for him. I don't know if I was old enough. Anyone know his name? You don't even know who he is. I used to resonate his voice for me. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Who did that? Anyone know? You forgot him already. Goldwater, bang, you won it. You win a free thank you. Goldwater, great man. Loved him from day one. He never got anywhere. We need extremism right now of the type that Donald Trump is starting to show in some regard. We need a lot more extremism in the defense of liberty because it ain't no vice. Thank you very much. Hit the like button, and with God's will and your viewership, not listenership. This is viewership now. Viewership. Let's see. Today is Friday. What do I got to look forward to this weekend? I can't go to restaurants because it'll be, well, Sunday is going to be like, I don't know. Do people stay home and cook? What do you mean, like ham? You make a ham on Easter Sunday? I don't eat ham anymore. I used to like ham. I don't like it. Not the kosher thing. I don't eat meat much. Maybe once a month I'll eat some meat. Very toxic. Please don't lecture me on nutrition. One day I have to do the whole thing on that. There's such good studies on the toxins in beef and, particularly red meat. Chicken less, fish less. But, don't believe me? Ask yourself why we have a colon cancer epidemic amongst the young. That's one issue, not many. One of many. There's other issues. The whole issue of cancer is a very big issue. No one has all the answers, but there's dots in the heavens that you follow when you then create. You follow those dots in heaven when you're trying to research a medical question. And then you see the light and you connect the light and decision on that basis. And I hope you made the decision to thank God for the blessings that you have in America, that you were born in the greatest country on earth at the greatest time in history. What you got to do is lay down at night in bed and breathe in the air in your bedroom and run your hand on your sheets, run your hand on your pillow and say, thank God I have a clean bed to lay in. The water isn't coming in on my head. I'm not laying in the snow somewhere like an ancient Aleut. I don't have to make an igloo. I'm not like a South Pacific Islander who had to figure it all out on an island in the middle of nowhere and create an incredible culture over so many millennia. Think of how many years the Native Americans were on this continent before the Europeans arrived. 20, 30,000 years. And all the different tribes and all the different languages and all the different material cultures of each tribe. Think about that. How each tribe developed its own language, its own cultural norms, its own cultures, all different cultures and their own borders, of course. They all had borders, language, and culture. Even the tribes had borders, language, and culture. But according to the Angela Merkels and the Devan and the Bernie Sanders and the occasional Cortexes, we're evil because we want borders, language, and culture. They're mentally ill. They're enemies of civilization. They need to be investigated under RICO, and that's the end of the story. Subscribe. Thank you very much for hitting a like button. But I got to say, have a great Easter, okay? I hope to see you Sunday night. It's very late, my TV show on Newsmax, because I'm preempted for the Easter special, which is fine. It's their network, not mine. I know my place in the world. I know where I am in terms of my time on earth, where I am. I also know where they are. You got to know where you fit and where your arc is. That's the one thing about your life is you have to know where your arc is. I never talked about that. I don't want to mention names. He was a beautiful guy. And at his peak, he was the most popular comic in the country, in the world. He did standing ovations for the Queen all over the world. I won't mention who. And he was on my radio show several times. I loved him. But towards the end, he started to lose it. He could hardly form a sentence. And nobody would book him anymore. I wouldn't even book him on the radio show because he couldn't talk. I'm not going to say who. And he would call and say, hello, Michael. How are you? When are you going to have me on the radio show again? It was heartbreaking. I'm not going there. I'm not winding up with the cats in the bedroom and a dog in a cage collapsed on it. Who was that guy, that actor? They just found him with the wife. I don't even understand how that happened. What was his name, the guy they just found? Whatever. I don't remember every actor. But you want to live like that when you get old? You think there's a value in your life like that? They find you in a disgusting house where your wife's been dead for 2 weeks and your dog is locked up in a cage and it dies of starvation. Is that how you want to die? Are you kidding? Wow. Unbelievable. So how do you want to go out? I mean, I should do a whole show on how do you want to go out. I think I'll save that. No, it's a good show for Good Friday. We'll do a whole show on how do you want to go out. I don't know. I'm just joking. I like to laugh at the end of my shows because when these lights go out and the darkness descends and we're alone in our beds and we got to think about the whole universe up there and all the stars in heaven, that's when the fun begins. And until the next time we meet each other in the corral called the media, I thank you for listening. Hit the like button, subscribe,